I'm Rowan, and I'm 27 years old. I remember when I first met my wife, the love of my life. There was an instant connection between us. We were drawn to each other's energy, shared interests, and the genuine love we had for each other. Fiona was beautiful, smart, and had a contagious zest for life. We were both ready to embark on this exciting journey together, blissfully unaware of the challenges that awaited us. Things were great between Fiona and me, but I could sense tension whenever her parents, Carol and Philip, were around. They held classist views and couldn't fully accept me into their high society bubble. You see, I didn't come from a wealthy background as Fiona did. I had to work hard for everything I had, and my upbringing was quite different from theirs. The first time we all sat down for dinner, I could feel their judgmental eyes scrutinizing me, subtly making snide comments about my less than lavish lifestyle. They seemed cordial and friendly at first, creating an illusion of acceptance and warmth. But little did I know that their true colors would be revealed once they realized that I didn't come from money. I remember that day like it was yesterday. As we sat around the table engaging in small talk, I could sense their curiosity about me, their daughter's chosen partner. The conversation flowed smoothly until the topic of my background and profession came up. It was as if a shift occurred in the atmosphere, and their tone subtly changed. Carol, with an artificial smile plastered on her face, asked, "So, Rowan, what do you do for a living?" "I work as a graphic designer. I've always had a passion for creativity and expressing myself through art." There was a momentary pause, and I could see the flicker of disappointment in their eyes. Philip chimed in, trying to conceal his judgment with false enthusiasm. "Graphic design, huh? That's quite different from our line of work." I couldn't help but notice the condescending tone in his voice. It was clear to me that they had certain expectations and assumptions about the kind of man Fiona should be with. A man who shared their lavish lifestyle and their exclusive circle of privilege. Yeah, I've always been drawn to the world of art and design. It allows me to bring ideas to life and create visually engaging experiences. "It must be a challenging field, especially financially. Are you able to make a comfortable living?" "Well, it definitely has its ups and downs, but I enjoy the work and find it fulfilling. Plus, I believe in the power of pursuing one's passions rather than solely focusing on financial gains." "Mom, Dad, can we please not judge Rowan based on his career or financial status? He's an incredible person, and I love him for who he is, not what he does." "Oh, Fiona, we're just trying to understand his situation. It's important to consider these things, especially for your future together." "I understand your concerns, but I believe that happiness and fulfillment go beyond just wealth and status. It's about shared values, love, and supporting each other's dreams." "Oh, darling, that's what all the poor people say." Realizing that it was too late to retract her offhand comment, there was an awkward silence. Fiona, sensing the tension, attempted to divert the conversation. "Just so you know, Mom, Rowan isn't poor, and even if he was, I'd want to be with him still. Anyways, let's order some more drinks, shall we?" We continued with dinner as best as we could, but I felt like the night had already been sullied. It was at that moment that I realized their preconceived notions about wealth and status were deeply ingrained. No matter how genuine my intentions or how deeply I cared for Fiona, I would never fully fit into their ideal mold of a suitable partner for their daughter. Yet, I refused to let their judgment define me or overshadow the love Fiona and I shared. I would prove to them, through my actions and the way I treated Fiona, that true worth lies in the content of one's character and not in their bank account. Little did I know that this encounter would be the catalyst for a series of events that would test the strength of our relationship and lead us down the path of self-discovery and resilience. But that's a story for another time, filled with triumphs, growth, and the unwavering bond between Fiona and me. Fiona, to her credit, always stood up for me. After the awful dinner, we'd still meet all together to continue getting to know each other, obviously. And when her parents, with increasing shamelessness, might I add, would make comments on my status or financial security, Fiona would berate her parents for their snarky remarks and defended our love against their elitist attitudes. It was evident that she was caught between the love for her family and the love for me, and it wasn't an easy position for her to be in. When I finally introduced my father, Arlo, to Fiona's parents, their true colors shone through. I thought their disdain was pretty evident before, but boy, I was in for a surprise. My dad had always been a free-spirited soul, unburdened by the trappings of societal expectations. He had a disheveled appearance, but his warm smile and genuine kindness made up for any superficial judgments. However, when Carol and Philip saw him, they literally burst into laughter, unable to comprehend the beauty that existed beyond appearances. Arlo, unaffected by their mockery, simply smiled and refused to engage in their negativity. "Oh, you must be Arlo, Fiona's father-in-law. It's lovely to finally meet you." "Pleasure's all mine, Carol. Fiona and Rowan have told me so much about you and Philip." Well, quite the unconventional appearance you've got there." "Thank you for the compliment, Philip. I've always believed in embracing my own unique style. Life's too short to conform to societal expectations, wouldn't you agree? I'm a bit of an artist myself, so I prioritize expressing myself." "Oh, Arlo, you're quite the character. It's refreshing to see someone so live." "Mom, did I say lively? I meant to say carefree." "Carefree's right, Carol. Life's too precious to worry about appearances. I find joy in the simple things and believe in being true to myself." "Well, we can see that, can't we, Carol? Quite a departure from our usual gatherings." "Dad, please." "We're all different in our own ways, Philip. It's what makes life interesting. Diversity brings new perspectives and opportunities for growth." "Mom, Dad, please remember to be respectful. Arlo is a wonderful person, and I'm proud to have him as my father." "Fiona, dear, we're just having a little fun. No harm intended." "No worries, Fiona. I'm used to it. Life has taught me to focus on the good and let go of the rest." It hurt to see the people I loved, my wife and my father, being subjected to such disrespect. A part of me wanted to lash out in anger and seek revenge for the pain they had caused us, but I just didn't know how. I mean, they were bigger than me in every way. They could easily destroy me if I exposed them as classists, and worse still, that would mean that Fiona and I would probably have to end things, and that's the last thing I wanted. Eventually, after falling deeper and deeper in love with the love of my life, I proposed. It wasn't anything lavish or extravagant. It was simple, but it was genuine. I had informed friends and family about the proposal because I knew that I wanted us to have a little celebration with all of our loved ones once she said yes. I noticed as my dad and my soon-to-be mother-in-law and father-in-law were coming in contact more often, that the comments on my father and my less-than-lavish lifestyle was something that was really rubbing them the wrong way. The tension had steadily been rising throughout the months of wedding preparation. I wanted to blame Philip and Carol's increased insensitivity due to the stresses and pressures of organizing a wedding, but what happened at dinner one night at their house, when we were still prepping for the wedding, acted as a catalyst for what would later on take place on my wedding day. The night went like this. "So, wedding preparations are in full swing, huh? I can't believe how fast time flies." "Yes, it's certainly an exciting time. We're all looking forward to the big day. Just hope we won't have any surprises like..." Arlo showing up in his usual attire. Oh, come on, guys. Can't we focus on the love and happiness of the occasion instead of how we dress? Exactly, Dad. This is a celebration of love, and it's important to embrace each other's uniqueness. There was an awkward silence, with Carol and Philip claiming to be joking once more, but Fiona, my dad, and I were certainly getting tired of their jokes. So, Carol and Philip, we've been looking at some wedding vendors and catering options. Do you have any recommendations? Well, Rowan, I'm sure your father has some unconventional ideas in mind for the wedding. Perhaps we should hire a wandering troubadour to serenade the guests? Yes, and instead of a grand feast, we can serve artisanal kale smoothies. Arlo would appreciate that, wouldn't he? Actually, Dad has a unique sense of style and free-spirited nature. We respect and love him just the way he is. Oh, of course, dear. We're just having a little fun. After all, everyone knows weddings are all about tradition and elegance. Tradition and elegance, indeed. Quite the departure from Arlo's hippie lifestyle. Excuse me, but I find it disrespectful that you continue to make jokes at my father's expense. He's a wonderful person, and his individuality is what makes him special. Oh, lighten up. It's all in good fun. Mom, Dad, it's not just a joke. These jokes have been going on for months now, and it's getting tiring, honestly. Arlo is an important part of our lives, and we won't tolerate any disrespect towards him. All right, we get it. No need to be so touchy. It's not about being touchy. It's about treating our loved ones with kindness and acceptance. I expect you to show the same respect to Arlo as you would to anyone else. You better watch how you talk to me, boy. I'll remind you who is paying for all this. Really, Dad? That's such a rotten thing to say. Darling, let's face the facts here, all right? Let us have a little bit of fun if we have to put up with this. She gestured to both my dad and me, implying that we're such an inconvenience to them that they need to make jokes at our expense to cope with all of the stress of not wedding planning, but just being in our presence. The room falls silent, tension hanging in the air. Carol and Philip exchange uncomfortable glances, realizing the impact of their remarks. It's all right, Rowan. Let's focus on the joy of your upcoming wedding. Love will always triumph over judgments and differences. His words resonated, a gentle reminder of the power of love and understanding to overcome adversity. The atmosphere gradually lightened up, and the conversation drifted towards more positive aspects of wedding planning, leaving behind the insensitive comments that had marred the evening. Although those thoughts were disregarded, they definitely weren't forgotten. As the wedding day approached, the final touches were being put in place, and the anticipation grew. Fiona and I were beaming with excitement, ready to embark on this new chapter of our lives together. The venue was adorned with flowers, and the seating arrangements were meticulously planned. Everything seemed to fall into place. As I stood in front of the mirror on my wedding day adjusting my tie, I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins. This was it, the moment I had been waiting for. Just then, my dad walked into the room, wearing his beloved lucky suit. It was an old, slightly worn-out suit he used to wear during his singing days, but it held sentimental value for him, and honestly, I might be biased, but he looked really good in it. It looked like one of those eccentric fashion pieces that are on the runway. What do you think, son? Do you like it? Isn't that my line? You're right, son. Nah, I'm playing, Dad. It's perfect. As long as you feel comfortable wearing whatever makes you happy. It's your presence that truly matters. His face lit up with gratitude, knowing he had our approval. He had always been his own person, unapologetically embracing his individuality. I admired him for that. The wedding ceremony was a breathtaking affair. The sun shone brightly as Fiona and I exchanged our vows, promising to support and love each other unconditionally. It was a moment filled with joy and overwhelming emotions. We were surrounded by our loved ones, celebrating our union. As the reception kicked off, the atmosphere became lively with music, laughter, and heartfelt speeches. Guests were dancing and enjoying themselves. Amidst the cheer, I couldn't help but notice Carol and Philip's disapproving glances at Arlo and his choice of attire. Unbeknownst to them, I overheard their remarks. "Can you believe he's wearing that shabby suit? It's so out of place at this beautiful wedding." I thought he would at least make an effort to dress appropriately. It's so embarrassing. Let's just tell the news reporters and photographers to not focus on him. Despite their disapproval, I chose to focus on the love and happiness that filled the room. My beautiful wife looks as gorgeous as ever. My dad, clad in his lucky suit, mingled with guests sharing stories and laughter. He was unbothered by the judgment, radiating his unique charm. As the evening progressed, Carol and Philip continued their snarky comments, barely masking their disdain for my background. It was as if they were determined to belittle my father at every turn. Each comment cut deeper, and I couldn't ignore their classist views any longer. I confided in Fiona, sharing my frustration and anger. She was furious, unsurprisingly, ready to confront her parents about their behavior. But I stopped her, knowing that I had a plan of my own that would make lasting impact. It was time for me to address Carol and Philip directly. I pulled them aside, away from the prying eyes of the other guests. I looked them both in the eye, my voice steady but filled with determination. "What's your problem? This is a momentous day for Fiona and me, and all I can sense from you both is contempt and disrespect. Care to explain?" Carol and Philip exchanged a glance before Carol responded, her voice dripping with disdain. "Oh, Rowan, don't act so naive. We had higher expectations for this day. We thought your father would put in more effort, at least try to fit in with our social circles. You know what? Your elitism and disrespect won't go unnoticed. Listen, Rowan, we can get behind you being a poor graphic designer. Maybe there's some hope there, but your father? He's hopeless. He looks so ungroomed. It's disgusting. And it says a lot for him to show up like this on such a marvelous occasion. I'm sick of his dirty boy aesthetic. He needs to do better." By this time, the chitter-chatter of the reception hall came to a complete standstill. And noticing this, Carol and Philip also stopped to slowly realize that everybody heard their comments. That's because I led them near enough to the DJ booth, and I discreetly took a mic and placed it on the table facing their direction. The hall was at a standstill, save for the news reporters and photographers from the local tabloids who were furiously writing down what they heard and snapping pictures respectively. "Your love for tarnishing my good father's name made you unaware of your surroundings." "Get that thing away from me!" Carol grabbed the mic and furiously switched it off, and Philip sent me daggers. They were both muttering something about paying off the press to keep quiet about their elitist, classist comments, but this was far from over. I grabbed another mic and said, "Good evening, my good people. Thanks once again for sharing this beautiful occasion with me and my wife. Baby, I promise to give you everything that I can, and I'll start by sharing something that's been a little secret for some time. Dad, come on up here and do your thing." With a mix of surprise and cheer coming from the crowd, my father made his way to the stage, and he got the mic, briefly introduced himself, and began his performance. What a lot of people fail to realize is that my father is an artist. He loved painting and photography, but he mainly enjoyed singing. And that's what he did. He opened his mouth and began to belt out one of the ballads he'd written in preparation for my wedding. Fiona began crying tears of joy, and the hall was silenced with reverence and respect. Sometimes I forget that for some people, hearing my dad sing is like hearing an angel sing. I was just so used to it at this point. But even though I was used to it, it didn't suggest that his voice was nothing short of perfect. The photographers who initially came due to the status and wealth of Carol and Philip began to record and snap my father. People also pulled out their phones and began recording. Fiona and I began dancing to the song, relishing such a perfectly unique experience. From the corner of my eye, I would take a peek now and then to see people's reactions, and everyone's jaw appeared to be on the floor. They just couldn't fathom that this simple-looking man, who dressed a bit eccentrically, had such a rich and booming voice. I also peered at Carol and Philip, who were also just as surprised as everyone else, but they seemed to look angry. Once my dad was finished with his glorious song, the crowd erupted in applause. Everyone was hooting and hollering, with several photographers and journalists coming to attack my dad with questions and pictures. Everyone was probably thinking this, but Fiona was the first to verbalize it. I didn't know that your dad could sing so well. He made me cry the entire time. Why isn't he famous? Before I could answer, my dad decided to say, Thank you all. Your kindness and love are heavily appreciated. As I was being swarmed by these lovely reporters and media people, a recurring question came up. Why don't we know who you are? And why aren't you famous? Well, folks, believe it or not, some people don't seek fame and money like that. I'm very content with my life as an ungroomed and disgusting individual, as some people like to put it. Everyone turned to Carol and Philip with angry and disappointed looks. They subsequently cowered and blushed in embarrassment. As for me, I'm more than content living a peaceful, slow, and unwealthy lifestyle. I decided to chime in, joining my father on stage and saying, I would just like to say, folks, that there are certain people here tonight who prioritize elitism and money so much that they've lost their souls to the glitz and glam. But I hope you leave this event knowing that you're allowed to pursue happiness in any form you'd like. Don't let anyone make you feel less than, just because they don't care about having a heart. The crowd whooped and cheered. They were all praising my father and me for our commitment to our authenticity as simple folk. Carol and Philip approached Fiona, and from afar I could tell that they were upset, expecting her to do something. But my beautiful wife didn't even respond to them. She walked away and joined my father and me up on stage, and we spent the rest of the night dancing. Before Carol and Philip scurried off to some place quiet, they were bombarded by the journalists and photographers who came for them, trying to avoid answering their crimes. Let's just say that there wasn't enough hush money they could throw at 300 people who attended my wedding. Their behavior was already buzzing on social media, and they were sufficiently embarrassed. Ever since that day, I haven't heard a single elitist, classist comment from them.